Our next speaker is Joe Self, joining us remotely from Mexico City on a topic that I have been personally excited about and waiting for. It is what makes you weird is what makes you wonderful. I have a personal interest in that one. Joe Self is a Gallup certified strengths coach based in Mexico City with a mission to help individuals realize their full potential. After a challenging entrepreneurial journey starting in 2007 and a transformative revelation in 2015, Joe pivoted to focus on strengths driven by a desire to offer the guidance she wished she had. Certified in Spanish as Peru's first Gallup strengths coach, she blends her expertise with personal experiences as a mompreneur and expat. Joe is passionate about empowering others to leverage their talents, boost their confidence, and lead extraordinary lives. Outside work, she enjoys sewing, movies, and family time with her young son. You can connect with Joe at discoverjoeself.com. Please welcome Joe Self.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Scott, for that lovely introduction. And I have to say, Nina, I'm really excited that I'm actually following you because we are going to sound almost like we're talking about the same thing with a completely different language. So I really love how human design intertwines with what I'm going to be sharing with you guys. This is, I think, going to be really interesting for you. So yes, it's all about what makes you different or weird. That's your strength. But we're just going to use a slightly different language to talk about it. And I started doing this over 20 years ago. We're going to be talking about the Clifton Strengths Finder. But I really want to say that I am guessing almost every single one of you out there at some point, someone has said, why do you do that? Why are you like that? For me, that has been, why do you smile all the time? This is really, hold on one second, please. Ten-year-old boys have so much fun when they're trying to play Fortnite in your background. My apologies. So anyway, the thing that happens to me is that, why do you smile all the time? And I mean, I've been hearing this since I was a kid. And what's funny to me is when they say it, they're never like, wow, you really smile all the time. It's always kind of like, why do you smile all the time? No one's that happy. Are you some kind of idiot? What's wrong with you? Nobody could feel that way. I smile. I don't know what to tell you. And so throughout my life, I've gotten to this point where I'm like, I'm not flirting with you. I'm not trying to do anything weird. I'm not trying to like con you. And I just like to smile. Then I found out I have positivity as a talent. And all the little bells started going off and went, but now I actually have a way to say, I smile because I have positivity. It's important to me. And it's almost just without even thinking about it. I smile at people on the street. I smile at people in the grocery store. I'm going to give them a compliment. I'm going to say, hey, I love your glasses. Wow, that's a great color on you. I can't help myself. That's just who I am. Right. And the other side of that coin is we also go, how do you do that? And the how you do that is often somebody who is just in awe of exactly how incredibly easy something looks for you, but is not for us. But what happens when we do that is we often go, oh, I'm not really sure why you can't do it. I mean, it's really easy. I mean, if you just try a little harder, I'm sure you could figure it out. And so what happens is we start like internally judging someone for not being as clever as we are, as fast as we are, as responsible as we are, whatever it is. And so, but we're also not valuing something that we're offering the world. And so we hit this double-edged sword of lose-lose, right? So that's where I want to start talking about filters. Our strengths are really our filters. And really what we're starting with are talents. But I love to look at strengths, and we're using Clifton Strengths. For some of you out there, you might know this as Strengths Finder. But this is a shortcut glossary into the human psyche, which allows us to have better relationships through better communication and greater compassion. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is we start to clear these filters. I often use the talents of analytical and empathy to really kind of illustrate this because they seem naturally at odds. And so I really appreciate that analytical is someone who's going to say, I think we need to do this. And empathy is going to say, well, I feel like this is what we need to do. And analytical is going to be like, I don't really care about the feelings. That's not going to solve our problems. And the person with empathy goes, well, I don't care what you think because you're actually hurting people in the process and you're not even caring about what they're feeling. But at the end of the day, they're probably saying the same thing, just using a different language to say it. And so instead of creating this at odds piece, the person with the empathy goes, ugh, God, every time I go to this person they're going to like ask me a ton of questions. They're going to need proof. They don't trust anything I say. They never believe that what I'm saying is true. And then, and they just don't even look like they care. And analytical is going to be like, oh my gosh, here comes that person with empathy. I'm like, they're just like, they're always sensitive and they're thinking about how everybody feels, but they're not even really looking at the problems and like the data that we have to support what's happening. But then when we know this about each other, I can go, hey, that person has analytical. Let me prepare for a few questions because what they need to feel safe and secure is proof, validating their resources. They want to know that they're attacking the problem from a logical way. And just because they look like they don't care or they have a very like poker face and you can't really tell what they're feeling doesn't mean they're not feeling something. But for them at that point, emotion is not the key driver for them. It's not what's going to solve the problem, the issue, or get them to the goal. Empathy, likewise, analytical can go, hey, this person is probably reading the room a very different way. They're seeing things intuitively that I'm missing. And so their intuition and their ability to read people could possibly help me back up the data that I'm looking for. So once we know that about each other, we start to actually have better conversations because we stop taking things so personally. We go, him doubting me is not doubting me. It's their need for proof that makes them satisfied and feel safe, right? So when we look at this, some of you have probably seen this, before, which is there is a truth. But for analytical, one view is true. For empathy, the other view is true. That does not make either truths wrong. Those are not lies. Those are just different perspectives. And then there's, of course, the absolutely very common, we all know it and love it. Maybe we don't love it. Maybe we really don't love it, but we all have it at some point in our lives and it can come and go. There might be places where we feel super confident and other places where we're like, oh my God, really? Am I supposed to be showing up in this space? Am I enough? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, if you don't know your talents, self-reflection still has its blind spots. So no matter how many times somebody says, why do you do that? I don't know, man. I just smile all the time. Like, why is this a problem for you? I can't tell you why I do it, right? But if we know positivity, then we get to some answers, then we have somewhere to work. So those blind spots of not knowing our talents, which are really our innate ways of showing up. They are our natural tendencies, motivations, needs, how we want to contribute, what we value. And when we have that information, we start to fill in those blind spots. It doesn't mean they always show up beautifully. It just means we know what we're working with and how to be more intentional with it, right? And so I always talk about this. We tend to fall into shoulds, right? I'm sure you guys have all heard about the shoulds, right? And that we shouldn't should on ourselves all the time. But there's kind of three tracks. To me, if we're on this middle track, that means we're on our path. We know what we're destined to do. We kind of see it. For me, our purpose is inside of our talents. We start with talents and go to strength. But we tend to get derailed somewhere along the way, often in our younger years, right? Before we have this confidence, before we've had our midlife crisis, before we've gone through some really great self-reflection and development. One of those is, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm not really sure what I'm good at doing. And your parent or a sibling or a teacher, someone you look up to, someone you love, someone you admire, who wants the best for you, says, oh, well, you've always been so good at this. You should do this. I think you should go this way. I think you should do this. And you go, Well, I don't really know what I want to do, so I'm going to do what they think I should do because obviously they want the best for me. But somewhere along that way, you go, this doesn't really feel right. This doesn't feel like me. And that's where we start to have a crisis of identity. The other side of it is, oh, I love what this person is doing. The other track is, wow, I love how successful that person has been. They're down a space that I really love. And I'm going to imitate and emulate them to the best of my ability. And then we get frustrated when we're not successful doing it exactly the way that person did it because you're not them. They're not you. You have a voice. You have a special way of showing up. And so our strengths or learning our talents will help us get there. So for me, there's really a basic formula. Starts with self-awareness. And most of us think we're pretty self-aware, especially if we're at this stage in life and we've done a lot of work and we're really exploring. We think we're pretty self-aware. But what I find is most of us do not accept ourselves. And so we know who we are, but we don't necessarily value who we are and see that as something that is worthwhile to embrace. So once we have self-awareness and self-acceptance, that's where our confidence begins to build on an organic, natural path. So a lack of confidence for me is not the problem. It is merely a symptom of not having both self-awareness and self-acceptance. Oh, I won first. I just got you. So this is where the language comes in, right? It is my goal to teach these 34 talents as a second language. This should be vocabulary that everybody has in their lives. And so if we look at we have 34 talents, we have 34 talents that show up in 4 different domains. So you see 4 different colors on my screen. Those are representative of the domains. We're not going to go into too much of that today. That's next level. But if we want to take a couple of talents, we're going to look at learner, which is in the strategic thinking domain, and self-assurance, which is in the influencing domain. So I talked about these ideas that we have these natural glossaries built in. So if we look at learner, all of our talents have an I am, I do, I contribute, I need, I value, I dislike, right? Well, learner loves to learn. Learner is curious. Learner wants to go out and ask questions. Learner wants to be on the cutting edge. Learner is the perpetual student. They go to external sources. They get their information by doing research, reading, listening to podcasts, talking to others. Self-assurance says, I like to learn too, but I'm only going to trust my experience. So self-assurance still learns, but self-assurance often learns by doing and saying, that's for me. Nope, that's not for me. It has a higher risk tolerance. It wants to learn what it is capable of and then uses that as its guidepost. So both of them can want to learn and can learn, but they're going to learn in very different ways. So then the how. Okay, I want to give you guys a second. Hopefully you have pen and paper handy. We're going to do a very quick exercise to talk about why using our strengths is really important. So I'm going to give you a couple seconds. And as you're getting that pen and paper, I should have said this at the beginning, my apologies. You're going to have 20 seconds. Everyone is going to have 20 seconds to write your name as many times as possible when I say go. So on your mark, get set, go. Write that name as many times as possible. And stop. Okay, so throw in the chat or get off your microphone. How many times? Let's see how many times you got it. 7, 7, 10. Awesome. 1, 9, 12. Excellent. All right. We are going to do that same exercise again. Write your name exactly how you did it, but you're going to change hands. On your marks, get set, go. and stop. How many times this time?
Joe, I got to
Right.
give you this one. Mark just said, same number of times, you just can't read them.
And that's probably true too, right? But most people, right, you're probably at about 50%, 60%. Maybe it's not legible. I could see a few faces on the screen and I saw these like, oh, okay, we're going to do this now, right? When I asked you to do it the first time, you didn't even think about it. When I asked you to do it the second time, there was a little bit of nervousness. How's it going to turn out? Oh, this is not going to go well, right? But that's what we do with ourselves and others all the time. We're asking them to fix a weakness, something we don't do naturally well. But the investment in that is a cost of productivity. It's greater stress. It's depleting our energy and not feeling like we're worthy or good enough. But when we actually maybe put ourselves in a calligraphy class and use our dominant hand, that is your path to excellence. And this was beautifully, brilliantly demonstrated by Dr. Donald Clifton, who was the founder of the Shrinks. And he did a speed reading study. So he tested out with his 10th grade students a speed reading methodology. And in that speed reading methodology, you have to get a baseline. So most of the students could read 90 words per minute. But there was a small group that could read 350 words per minute. They already had a natural ability to read faster. So after teaching the methodology, going back and retesting, the group of 90 went up to 150. They improved, right? We put some time, we put some energy, we put a methodology to it, and they improved. But can you even guess what the number is for the ones that started at 350? 2,900 words per minute. That is a 200-page novel in 15 minutes. This is why we invest in what we do naturally well. And this is true of whether we're showing up as a parent, whether we're showing up as an entrepreneur, whether we're showing up as a sibling or a spouse. All of these things have a place, and how we show up is determined by our talents. So we have talents like the purple and the green are executing talents and strategic thinking talents. Blue and orange are building relationships and influencing. So one really needs people and is focused on people. Two of them are, no, people are fine, but I'm good at getting things done by myself. You don't necessarily need to be there. So if we take two different photographers, one with the top set of talents and one with the bottom set of talents, the photographers could have both award-winning skills, what we often think of as a talent when it's an artistic talent. But the one who is executing, I mean, if we think about it, which one of these is going to want to sit on a mountain for geographic and get the best picture it could of a snow leopard that might have to sit there for 2 weeks before it happens? Probably not the bottom one, who needs people and wants to be there. Who wants to go out and take photos of kids and weddings and events and maybe teach a photography class to others on the street, like how to teach street photography? Probably not the top guy. Top guy's probably going to want to be doing catalog shots, long periods, studying, thoughtful process. The other one's going to be more spontaneous and want to be involved with people. So our talents really drive us, not in what we do, but how we do it, how we implement those skills. And at the end of the day, how we do it shouldn't matter unless we are having a negative impact on other people. If we are having a negative impact on other people, then we need to adjust. You're probably wondering, what does this guy with the shower have to do with anything? So I want you to imagine you live all by yourself and you love a hot, long, 30-minute shower in the morning. It makes you feel good. Everything runs off. You can use up all the hot water if you want to. Nobody cares. But if you're living in a room, if you're sharing a space, you're in college, you've got a big family, you've got one bathroom, you got to schedule the timing, you got to schedule who has hot water, how long they're going to be able to use it. Do you do different times a day, right? You can't go in for that 30-minute shower anymore because you're impacting other people's experiences. So you've got to be a little bit more thoughtful about how much hot water you use, when you use it, and how you use it. Now, believe it or not, this analogy comes from an experience of mine where my now ex-husband, said to me when I was about 38 years old, he said, I really think you should start showering like I do. And I went, I'm sorry, what? And he said, no. I love how I shower. I go in, it's cold water. I do this. He explained, and I said, that's lovely. But correct me if I'm wrong. The point of a shower is to come out clean. If at any point I don't come out clean after my shower, we can revisit this conversation. But you love cold water. I love hot water. You take it for 10 minutes. I take it for 30. You take it in the morning. I take it at night. We are not impacting each other in any way, shape, or form. So while I appreciate that your shower works for you, that's not what works for me. And we got to the same goal. That's what we need to keep in mind is when we're looking at working with others, delegating, asking them to do things, they may not do it how we do it. But as long as they get it done with the optimum goal that we both have in mind and a shared vision, then we don't really need to worry about how they get there unless it's having a negative impact. So what does this look like in real life? Our talents influence how we watch Netflix. Whether you guys know your talents or not, this may resonate with some of you. People who have learner or input, they will watch Netflix, whether it's a documentary or a movie, but let's say they're watching a movie and they'll be like, oh, where do I know that guy from? What's that actor's name? And then you get on Google and you look up the actor's name and then you're like, oh, I didn't know he was married to so-and-so. And then you look up so-and-so and then so-and-so, you're like, oh, I didn't know she was in that thing. And you go down this rabbit hole and all of a sudden you're like, crap, I've missed 20 minutes of what I was watching. You hit rewind, right? Achievers go, do I have enough time to watch this? Can I get it finished? If I can't get it finished, I'm not even going to start it. How many episodes is this? Can I binge watch it? Do I have to plan out my weekend? Oh, and if I'm sitting and watching something, that's not enough. I need to be folding the laundry, making the grocery list, or doing something else at the same time. Achievers are going to be multitasking when they're watching Netflix. They're not going to just relax and watch because, that's very anxiety inducing. I need to be doing something else. Maximizer is going to watch maybe an episode, maybe a few minutes of a show and go, is this really worth my time? No, I'm going to find something else. I'm going to do something else that's more worth my time, right? So they kind of jump out quickly. Another way this shows up is, if you have achiever, we just talked about achiever, we can look at our triggers as well, those things that create imbalance for us that affect our psychological safety. And so rest can feel threatening if chronic productivity creates a sense of safety. Producing, excelling, saying yes can sometimes serve as a survival tactic or coping mechanism that kicks in when our sense of safety is threatened. Every strength is like a coin with two sides, the genius side and the shadow side, the side that serves us and the one that has the potential to work against us. And it's fine. We're human. They're both going to show up, but it's knowing that and recognizing that and understanding how we shift in the process. Now, my inspiration and why I believe we can create a strengths-based generation, why I believe having strengths can help us exponentially develop our communities in a more positive way, is this guy in Rhode Island. He actually came in, one person said, Rhode Island is number 50 out of 50 states that are disengaged, actively disengaged, according to the Gallup State of the American Workplace. And that was in 2015. In 2 years, he took them from 50th to 15th, 50 to 15 in 2 years. The only change he made was making strengths a part of his leadership program. And in 2016, they were still number 49 in the category of I use my strengths every day at work. And they went from 49 to number 1 in 1 year. He officially made Rhode Island to be the first state on the path to becoming a strengths-based state just by bringing leaders together and then having those leaders diffuse the information out into their organizations, educational institutions, government bodies. So we need each other. Our talents and our differences are advantages. We want to take advantage of those differences while celebrating the uniqueness of each person and who we are. So who needs this? Everybody needs this. Managers, couples, families, working on teams, building a church congregation, how you build trust with other people, how we build confidence into our kids, how we get better communication and better relationships. Everybody needs this. Not everybody's going to do it the same way, but this is my vision, and what I'm so passionate about is making it a language. Because at the end of the day, we all make a difference, whether we want to or not. So my question to you is, what difference will you make once you know this? It is an active choice of how you show up, because you're going to have an impact, like it or not. And there is my contact information if you would like to reach out. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that this leaves you with a little bit more curiosity and wanting to dive in a bit deeper.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm a huge Strength Finders, Clinton Strength Finders myself. I've taken it multiple times. They don't really change, but from when it first started to then it opened up all of the strengths, so you got to see it. So this was lovely. We are very close to time, so I don't know if we have one quick
We
question.
totally have time. Stop.
Well,
we have time. We have
we
2
don't,
minutes.
but-
And this Joe has been so good.
We have 1
The
minute.
whole room is just in a roar. Do we have any room questions? Do we have any Zoom questions? Joe, again, you were just fabulous.
Well, thank you. And I am more than happy to answer questions. So please feel free to email me, reach out, because I know it was exciting and I wanted to not go too fast, but happy to answer anything. So please feel free to reach out to me personally as well. I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
Joe, yeah,
I
this
just
is
removed my
Mark.
spotlight. Sorry. Hi.
Hi, I just want to know how we can get you on a ballot somewhere.
I actually have a dream of working with more government and doing chambers of commerce and bringing this in. So as soon as I get to the States, that is one of my goals. And we're actually building our own leadership program through Practical Strengths, where we'll be inviting people in from around the country from different sectors so that we can start building our communities more intentionally. That is my overall goal right now.
Well, when you come back to the States, could you possibly come back to Scottsdale? We have a very nice neighborhood for you.
100%. I would love to. Thank you, Scott.
You did say that you're coming back to the States, right, Joe?
Yes, yes. I come back in like 3 weeks.
We're thrilled. We need more people like you.
Thank
And then you
you.
could do for Arizona what he did for Rhode Island.
Mhm.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.